Dang, Yoshi. What the heck, you monster. Anyway, welcome to Quick Compare Episode 6, and today we are tackling Super Mario 64, both in its original 64 version versus its DS remake from 2004. And what a fun compare request, because instead of dealing with just two copies of the same game, we're actually dealing with a slightly modified port. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Pro Gamer from over on YouTube for originally submitting this request, and then No One over on my Discord server for also requesting this one. What a great request, guys. Thank you so much for those. And of course, if anyone else would like to see any games requested, always leave them in the comments below. So let's talk about the DS version a little bit. Super Mario 64 DS takes the Nintendo 64 classic Super Mario 64 that we all know from 1996 and basically converts the entire experience into something new. We get new graphics, we get changed levels, we get new characters, we get new mini games, we get basically an entirely new way to experience Super Mario 64. And quite honestly, it is pretty dang cool, especially for Mario fans. Alright, so now let's talk about some of the differences between the original Nintendo 64 version and the DS version. So both games revolve around you jumping into paintings to recover power stars, defeat Bowser, and save Princess Peach. No difference there, except in the DS version, we actually have more stars. I believe there are 30 more stars over the original 120 that were in the N64 version. As I briefly mentioned earlier, levels have also been drastically redone in some instances on the DS version to account for the additional characters, and each character actually has a unique power. Wario can turn into metal, Mario can float, Luigi can turn invisible, and Yoshi has fire breath. So there are specific obstacles in each level that revolve around using these specific power-ups per character that were not obviously present in the 64 version. On the graphics front, the DS version does actually run at a lower resolution than the original Nintendo 64 version at 256 by 192 instead of 320 by 240, but the DS hardware is capable of outputting so many more polygons, so you're going to see a lot more updated character models in Mario, Yoshi, Bowser, and Peach. Texture work has also completely been redone between both versions, with the DS version presenting a much sharper presentation than the N64 version did, but honestly, I'm kind of hit and miss with the textures on the DS version. Like, it looks really nice, but it's just the colors are a lot more muted in certain instances, especially on like Bob-omb Battlefield and throughout the entire game, honestly. It just takes a very bright and colorful game and kind of grabs it out, if you know what I mean. Over on the sound front, I actually think the sound quality on the N64 version is slightly better than the DS version. Voice samples on N64 just sound more crisp than the DS version. Wario sounds very staticky. Yoshi's kind of, he just sounds compressed, honestly. Music is fairly similar between both versions, so not too big of a deal in the music department, but overall I will give audio quality over to the N64 version. So one of the biggest things that I want to touch on between both of these versions of the game is controls. And my goodness, the DS version has awful controls. The game was built with the touchscreen in mind. They wanted you to use the touchscreen like an analog thumbstick. To slightly hold it forward, you're going to run forward, move it all the way, you're going to run forward. And it is bad. You can use the D-pad, but then you're limited to 8-way directions, and you end up doing this bob and weave technique, and it's just really, really terrible to try to control your characters on the DS version, whereas the N64 version controlled like a dream. Like, the game is still praised to this day with how well it utilized 3D movement. So be aware of that when you're choosing a version. If you play on a 3DS, you do get the Circle Pad Pro, and it does alleviate some of these issues, as well as playing on the Wii U Virtual Console like I did for this preview. It does eliminate some of those control issues, but overall, they are still there a little bit, because even when you translate a D-pad into an analog stick, it doesn't always translate 100% accurately. There's obviously no actual analog range of motion. That's why the DS version had to implement a run button. and that in itself causes its own issues. If you hold the run button down and you try to move forward, if you're holding it for a long time and you try to run forward, you end up doing this little boost thing that can really mess up your movement. But yeah, be aware of those control issues when you're trying to choose which version of the game you want to go through. N64 version is far superior in that regard. So the time has come for us to choose our winner, and honestly, for Super Mario 64, it is always going to be the original Nintendo 64 version that I will always go back and play. Precise controls always are going to win out for me over better graphics any day. When you can barely control your game, it's not fun. It just leads to a lot of frustrations. While the new characters are really cool, and they did change around some levels, added in more stars, the mini games, and all that cool stuff, it's just kind of frustrating to play the DS version. So, N64 all the way. This is the de facto standard for what 3D platformers were supposed to play like. So, N64 version, guys. All the way. Thank you all again so much for watching this episode of Quick Compare. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have any games you would like to see compared, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that like or dislike video, depending on how much you like the video. And as always, my friends, we will see you back next video.
Dear Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Princess Toadstool. Peach.
Let's go! Oh yeah! Yo! Ah! Here we go! Let's go!